You're about to find out why everything you've learned about budgeting might actually be keeping you broke. Here's the truth that nobody tells you. Wealthy people don't use the kind of budgets you see on TikTok or those color-coded spreadsheet templates online. Rich people don't budget to save money. They budget to buy freedom. In this video, we're breaking down how wealthy people think about money completely differently from the rest of us. How their mindset around budgeting is completely upside down compared to what most people are taught. Then, we'll go through the exact breakdown wealthy people use to plan their money. Not to restrict themselves, but to leverage it for freedom, time, and choice. And by the end, you'll learn a bonus trick that you won't see in finance books called the hidden budget rule that turns every expense into a tool for freedom. It's how rich people build flexibility into their spending so they never feel trapped by their budget, even when life changes. And I'll also show you something most rich people never admit, how they build flexibility into their budgets so they never feel trapped by them. Most people budget to cut. They think budgeting is a way to control spending, with a mindset, where can I spend less? Rich people budget to choose. They use their budget as a tool to control their life. They ask, what gives me control? They don't focus on cutting costs. They focus on directing cash flow. That's the first major difference. A poor person's budget is defensive, while a rich person's budget is strategic. To show you how this actually looks in real life, we're going to compare two people. One who budgets like most people do, and one who budgets like the wealthy. They both earn the same amount, but one feels stuck every month while the other feels in control. Sam earns $3,000 a month. He tracks every coffee, cuts out Netflix, and feels guilty every time he spends. Meanwhile, Sarah earns the same amount, but her budget starts with priorities: freedom fund, growth fund, and living expenses. She's not just counting pennies. She's assigning power to each dollar. Rich people don't see money as something to protect. They see it as something to position. Here's a breakdown you rarely hear explained correctly. Most wealthy people follow a version of what's called the 70-20-10 rule, but not in the way most financial gurus teach it. They don't mean 70% for needs, 20% for savings, and 10% for fun. What it means is 70% fuels lifestyle and leverage. This includes smart spending that keeps their world running, including not just rent, but tools, systems, or even memberships that buy them time. 20% builds assets. That's investments, business growth, or skill upgrades. 10% builds optionality. This is the freedom budget, a fund that lets them say yes to opportunities others can't afford to take. So when you hear someone say, I can't afford that, a wealthy person thinks, how can I create a fund that lets me afford anything worth doing? That's how they budget. Not for limitation, but for leverage. Rich people are not obsessed with tracking every expense. They design their system to run itself. The truth is they build lazy-proof budgets. They automate transfers to savings and investment accounts on payday. They separate spending accounts so they can't accidentally dip into their growth money. They even automate donations or guilt-free fun money, so they enjoy life without the emotional weight of every purchase. Here's a bonus tip. If you're paid bi-weekly, create 2 checking accounts. One handles bills. The other is your flexible spending. Once that spending account runs out, you stop buying. No guilt, no math, no stress. That's not budgeting harder. That's budgeting smarter. Here's something few people talk about. Wealthy people often don't have a visible budget. That's because they already live below their emotional spending limit. They know exactly how much lifestyle they need to feel comfortable, and they don't inflate it just because they earn more. For example, a middle-class person gets a raise and instantly upgrades everything. A wealthy person gets a raise and upgrades nothing. They upgrade their options. They stay consistent on what they spend, but expand how much they can choose from. That's why the gap between what they earn and what they spend keeps growing, and that gap is the real engine of freedom. Now, here's the part most people miss, and this is where real wealth begins. Every 90 days, rich people do what I call a budget audit. They look at where their money actually went and ask 3 questions. 1. Did this expense buy me time? 2. Did this expense make me money? 3. Did this expense make my life better long term? If the answer is no to all three, that expense gets replaced. Not removed, replaced with something that creates value. This is key. Rich people don't just cut bad spending. They reassign it to something that multiplies their time, income, or joy. That's how a budget stops feeling restrictive and starts feeling empowering. Here's the bonus insight I promised you earlier. Rich people often spend more than average people. But the key difference is, their spending creates future income. For instance, they'll hire a virtual assistant to free up their time for better paying projects. They'll pay for financial software that helps them optimize tax savings. They'll even treat a nice dinner as a networking investment instead of an emotional purchase. They're not saving money. They're redirecting money toward freedom. When you start seeing your budget as a map to freedom, not a cage of limits, you're thinking like the wealthy. So here's the question you should ask yourself after this video. If your budget doesn't make you feel free, who's really in control? You or your money? So here's the real takeaway. Wealthy people don't budget to limit themselves. They budget to create freedom. They design systems that let them live without financial stress, even when things change. And if you've ever thought, I just need to make more money to get ahead, the truth might surprise you. Because in the next video, we're diving into how to stop being broke without making more money. You'll learn the everyday habits that quietly drain your paycheck, how to reset your spending so your bank balance actually grows, and why earning more isn't the solution most people think it is. The secret isn't earning more. It's what you do after you get paid. And once you understand this, you'll realize you already have everything you need to stop living paycheck to paycheck. No raise required. So hit subscribe, because the next video could be the one that finally breaks your always broke cycle for good.